Welcome everyone. Welcome to KubeCon. Welcome to our talk. I am Shivanshu, and
Ekansh, I am a software engineer with SigNoz.
yeah, I'm a software engineer at SigNoz, CNCF ambassador, and member and contributor to OpenTelemetry. Today we are going to cover how you can use OpenTelemetry to monitor your Backstage. So first of all, how many of you are using Backstage? Oh, nice. And how many of you are using OpenTelemetry in production? That's really nice. And how many of you are using OpenTelemetry to monitor Backstage? Oh, all right. So that's why we are here. We are going to talk about how you can leverage OpenTelemetry to monitor Backstage, because in a nutshell, Backstage is a unified pane of glass to monitor, to orchestrate and monitor your infrastructure, whereas OpenTelemetry is a single pane of glass for you to monitor and collect telemetry from your applications. But what happens when your services goes down and you are probably using Backstage for it, and Backstage also goes down? So that's where you would probably want to monitor Backstage as well. So today, infrastructure is getting complex and complex. There is different teams, be it a small size startup, a mid-sized company, or enterprise. Everybody if they are a developer or they are a DevOps teams, they need to interact with infrastructure tooling. And there's just a lot of complexity, and you need a single pane of glass. And that's what Backstage does. It gives you a unified way so that you can just interact with all of your infrastructure components, your services, your service catalogs, just through a single and a simple UI. So that's what Backstage does. And in a nutshell, if you are running Backstage, it comprises of two components. One is the UI component, another is the backend component. The UI component provides you to plug different plugins. For example, you can use the service catalog plugin along with the service catalog backend to have different service catalogs. You can have different plugins, for example, Argo plugin to have an Argo dashboard in Backstage. And under the hood, how it works is you have, so the backend of Backstage is written in Node.js. You can create different packages if you want to define a custom plugin, or you can use the community published packages to integrate with the existing plugins. So that's how it works. And if you want to integrate, or maybe onboard a service catalog, you can just define a simple YAML-based templating to just get started. And it just provide a very simple UI for you to interact and manage with your infrastructure and services. Now, coming back to next slide. How you can see and visualize things. So I'm not going to dive very deep into the Backstage itself, because a lot of you are already using it. But in a nutshell, it just provides a very simple UI for you to integrate your service catalogs and your infrastructures. And it also provides a very unique way for you to integrate different components as a part of plugins. So you can integrate AWS S3, Argo, and a list of plugins to integrate with Backstage. So this is what the community provides. There's a long list of plugins that you can, out of the box, integrate with Backstage. And you can also create your own plugin. So if you want to have a custom workflow and there's no sufficient plugin for it, you can. So Backstage provides API so that you can extend and create your custom plugin. We have a demo where we would be demoing how you can create a custom plugin and monitor it. Some of the ideas that I would really like to use in-house is if I want to configure OpenTelemetry Collector, there is no plugin in Backstage, but since a Backstage is a unified way to configure and see your infrastructure, if there's a plugin for me to configure my OTel Collector config, that would be really nice. So if you are a developer who is looking to contribute to Backstage plugin ecosystem, probably these are some ideas that I have. unified dashboarding in Backstage. You can have a single pane of glass for observability in Backstage to see your metrics, traces, logs, and events. Messaging queues configuration, so sometimes your consumer group lag is increasing, and then you have to SSH into some node and update the broker configs. That can be done via plugin in Backstage, if you have that. So now what is OpenTelemetry? So as you all know, and a lot of you are using OpenTelemetry, it's a standard way for, so it is becoming a go-to and a standard way for you to collect, monitor, and correlate different telemetry signals. It is now the second fastest growing project in CNCF after Kubernetes. It's growing really fast and with different language supports. It is now becoming a default standard for instrumentation. For example, all the CNCF projects are now supporting OTel by default. So if you are using Kubernetes or any other CNCF projects, it is probably having a integration for OpenTelemetry. And it provides standard SDKs and auto-instrumentation agents for famous languages like Java and Golang for you to collect melt data. In a nutshell, this is how the OpenTelemetry ecosystem looks like. You have SDKs, you have auto-instrumentation agents, and then you can integrate it with L7 proxies or L4 proxies like Envoy or Instio, where you can collect all the telemetry, send it to collector, and then you can store it in some columnar or time series database. And then you can visualize in a single pane of glass. This is how Yuri defines telemetry. He is one of the co-creator of OpenTelemetry. So Temple is what you get out of OpenTelemetry: traces, events, metrics, profiles, logs, and exceptions. So once you have OpenTelemetry as part of your infrastructure monitoring, application monitoring, what you can do about it, what's the benefit? So you can have a single pane of glass to go through all of your metrics, go through all of your events, go through all of your logs, traces, but that's not it. If you see on the right-hand side, there are attributes. So for every telemetry that is getting emitted from your application or your infrastructure, it contains some specific attribute that you can use to correlate between traces, logs, and metrics, which becomes very handy for debugging. And just recently, OpenTelemetry provides support for profiling. It's still being it's work in progress, but now profiling is also a part of one of the signals on OpenTelemetry. So, but what we are talking about? So this is the TLDR. OpenTelemetry unifies your telemetry. Backstage unifies a way for infrastructure tooling and your service configurations. In the world where everything is becoming more distributed and there are like more microservices than ever, simplicity drives efficiency. Having a very simple way to configure things, maybe a single pane of glass, reduces a lot of steps for you to figure out the RCA and ship things faster. But what happens when something goes wrong? What happens when you are relying on Backstage and something goes wrong with Backstage itself? Who will monitor the monitor? In this case, who will monitor Backstage when Backstage goes down? So that's where OpenTelemetry come in the picture. And
yeah. So hi everyone. So we are going to talk about how we have how Backstage integrates OpenTelemetry to send the telemetry data. So let's just assume an example where we are running OpenTelemetry and Backstage at scale. We will have a stakeholder viewpoint where probably there is a Backstage application, front end and a back end is running, and some sort of n number of plugins, something like Argo CD for actually looking at what are the deployments, GitHub workflows to actually check the CI/CD, SonarQube probably to check what is the code quality, and some n number of other plugins, custom plugins they have made, and some community plugins. So this is the proper workflow, the happy route, as you say. Next, you see that some plugin 1 and some plugin 2 has broken down. Backstage itself might be running, but the plugin is not. Or plugin might be sending data, but Backstage is not receiving it. Or there might be n number of problems, such as the components are not visible, or there are some config issues, or the templating goes boom or something like that. Or yeah, so the app broke down, or it is not starting up. So there might be issues like these when you are running Backstage at scale. So this is, when that happens, this is Shivanshu, who is actually trying to debug Backstage, but he is not able to he's not able to figure out what is wrong with Backstage. So then we used OTel with Backstage. We put an instrumentation.js file in Backstage where we configure what we are going to send to the collector. Here we have the trace exporter hooks and the metrics exporter hooks. By default, Backstage sends a lot of metrics which are related to catalog entity counts and the scaffolder step counts and the duration, probably the backend task duration as well. And apart from that, not only we have the traces as well for Backstage. So if we are running Backstage, like in this particular screenshot, I have the Backstage application, but I have named it as Backstage demo 2. Then it is running as, and it is giving us all the traces. Apart from that, we have the attributes that are sent to the traces as well, which are related to what are the plugins and what is going on in Backstage. So let's just say I have made a plugin which is, let's just say that we have made a new scaffolder run, which is called Go Stage Demo. We have made a template for Go APIs, which will actually trigger a repository call to your GitHub and then a workflow to your Argo CD. Its name was Go Stage Demo, so it is coming in as a data with backstage.entity.metadata.name. Apart from that, we will also get backstage.catalog.processor.stage. It might be preprocessor, it can be validate entity kind, it can be a number of other things as well. We will see that in the demo as well. So this is how observability of a Backstage app looks like. So let's talk about the workflow that we are going to showcase in the demo. What we are trying to do is we have run Backstage and we have Argo CD, we have GitHub workflows, and we have some custom plugin that I have also generated. Also, there is one other plugin which is a UUID generator, which is also custom integrated with OTel. So we have instrumented it. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to make a Go example service. We are trying to send it to GitHub, making a new like a new repository, and then through some GitHub workflows, we have integrated GitHub workflows. Then through workflows, it will send that data to Argo CD, and when it is coming back from Argo CD, it is checking if it is deployed or not. And with that, we are also generating a UUID to actually tag that particular deployment or service, so that if in other in another environment we want to query on that metadata, we can just query using the UUID. Also, there might be some problems with the probably UUID generator or some other Backstage component. So we have sent all the data to our OTel collector, so the traces and metrics would be visible, and something we can configure alerts on that, due to which we will get to know about it through the alert channels, which is probably Slack or your email ID or whatever alert channels you have configured. So we can start with the demo right now. So let's see. So we have the backend for Backstage right showing here. In the instrumentation.js file, I have imported all the required libraries, which are the trace library and the metrics library. We have started the get node auto instrumentation because this is a Node.js application on the backend. For visualization, you can use any visualization tool, but here we are going to use SigNoz because it's a unified way to do telemetry. And we are going to, apart from this, we are going into the package.json file, and we are putting the instrumentation.json as a JS as a require argument when we are starting the backend up. Apart from that, we have also integrated, we have created a new custom UUID generator plugin. So if we check this,
So basically, if you create a custom plugin, you would need to define it as a Node.js package and import it.
Yeah. So here it is a simple UUID generator which checks the /random endpoint, gets the detail, and sends it to the backend of Backstage. The Backstage, that random UUID generator also has a front-end plugin which shows the front-end, which shows the UUID on the front end of the Backstage system. Let's start working with this. So I am going to start my Minikube. My Minikube is probably up right now. So we are going to port forward our Argo CD as well. Oh, it's running. And we are going to host that on a public URL. So I'm going to use ngrok for that. And we have this public URL. We are going to use this public URL in our configuration file before starting up Backstage. So if I go into appconfig.yml, I just change this target here and it will work. Not only that, we have to also configure this particular URL in our GitHub workflows as well. So we will go to our GitHub repository. And we are going to go to the project settings and secrets and variables actions. And we are going to change the Argo CD server. And update secret. So that's done. So all the secrets are here for Docker, for Sonar, for Argo CD. Everything is here. Now we can start with our backend for Backstage. So that's yarn start backend. Whenever you see the logs of the backend, yeah, so
And
we
you
will
can see,
we will see a lot of logs here, but also we will be seeing the spans, the trace ID and the span ID that is associated with that particular log.
so essentially, Backstage backend has a very nice implementation where the trace ID and span ID are also present in the logs. So you can also do the correlation from trace to logs.
Yeah. We will also start the front end. Yarn start. And this will start a front end. Okay, so we are short on time, so I will do this very fast. I'm going to create a new API component, so I will write it on my repository demo. And create, and it will show me what is going on. We are going to publish it on GitHub. I can see the repository. I can open it on the catalog as well. Argo CD is not showing anything because the plugin is the service is not deployed yet. Also, I can see that it has also sent an error. We can check that why that error is there. But apart from that, we can also go to CI/CD. We can check what is the status of this particular workflow and see what is going on. So right now it's trying to deploy. In the meantime, we can also go to our SigNoz environment and check what happened to that particular route. So we have service .name is equals to Backstage.
So once the instrumentation is enabled in Backstage, you can actually monitor what's happening via traces if the OpenTelemetry instrumentation is enabled. And that way, if anything breaks in the backend of Backstage or even in the front end, you can see what's going on.
So we can also see that the HTTP URL for Argo gave us a 403 error because the application was not there. It was not yet deployed. But also we have set up an alert. So if I set up an alert here and I check the alert. The alert is for our http://random, and I got a notification for that because the alert was firing that this has a problem. And we can see that in our application as well. If I go into overview, our UUID was not generating. So if I go into our traces, so route is equals to / and I check what happened here. So then I get a 500 error code here. And the duration and everything, but I get a 500 error code on the on the /random endpoint, and we can figure out. So this is an internal server error. So what happened with this? There is a problem with the application. If I go back into my code base, like my terminal, and check, oh, the application was not up yet. So this is a like forceful error generation right now, but there can be a situation where there is some function that is failing, and that might be present in the trace as well. So if I start this application up and try to refresh my components, yeah, so the UUID has been generated. Also, the Argo CD overview is here, and if I go to our SigNoz dashboard, I can go to traces, I can go to service dot name is equals to backstage demo 2, and I run it, and I see the longest running traces. We can see the Argo CD API is taking around 380 milliseconds, which is actually a lot of time that it's taking, and it's generating 49 spans. So it's also a high count of spans here. Why is that happening? And we go into that and into the attributes, and we see it was giving us a 403 error because the application was not deployed at that point of time. Also, in our Backstage component, we have seen that the application has been synced. If I go to the repository, it is there. I see the workflow, and everything is visible through metrics. Traces. Also, through metrics, we can also see how many scaffolder runs were there. We can also see if there was any looping in the scaffolder runs, the duration of the scaffolder runs, and everything related to the telemetry of Backstage. So that was a short demo of how you can configure OpenTelemetry with Backstage for your Backstage application and your custom plugins that you have made for Backstage. Yeah. So that was the whole session on how we have integrated OpenTelemetry with Backstage. And thank you so much for being part of the session.